So this video is on Integrated 1 classwork, page 49 to 50, classwork number 9. So on this, we were trying to figure out what things are congruent. And so when we're looking at number 7, what they gave us is that angle E and angle B are congruent. We also know that these two angles here are congruent because these are vertical angles. Now I cannot call this angle C either side because there's two angles here that we're dealing with. So I'm going to call this DCE or ECD. That's going to be this one here. This one here, I'm either going to call BCA or ACB. So when we're doing this, we were going to say what is true about what's congruent and why, what the justification is. So this angle here and this angle here, that is B is congruent to angle B is congruent to angle E given. Then I said that right here, this angle here and this angle here are congruent. And again, I called this ECD, and this one I called BCA. And the reason these are congruent is because they're vertical angles, and vertical angles are congruent. Now, this is the only thing that I can tell from the picture, but in a triangle, if two angles are congruent, the third one has to also be congruent because the angles in a triangle always add up to 180 degrees. So I do know in this situation that this angle here and this angle here, angle D and angle A, are going to be congruent. I didn't know that originally, but I know it since I know these two angles. And the reason is triangle, angle, sum, theorem. Triangle, angle, sum, theorem. Don't know anything about any of the sides. Okay, the only thing I know are those angles. Now on number 8, it's very tempting to say that these two angles here are 90 degrees. We don't know it. They did not put a little square here to say it's 90 degrees. It's also tempting to say that DB is the same as BC, but they did not say that these are the same. So for example, I could have my AC could have come all the way out to here like this. We don't know. It's not necessarily drawn to scale. So this line segment here is obviously not the same as this line segment here. So again, we don't know DB to BC because we really don't know if it looks like this. I know they didn't draw it to that scale, but we don't know. So we don't know this line segment. We don't know this line segment. We do not know this angle. These angles look the same, but we do not know that. And we don't know that this splits this angle in half. The only thing we know is this line segment right here, because it's in both triangles. And so line segment AB is congruent to AB by reflexive property. Now, this last one, what I did was I copied this and I split this into 4 sections because it didn't have 4 sections. So basically, if you're following along with Cami, you could draw your parallel lines, cut by your transversal, label it 1. Let's see, actually, I think the 1 was over here. Label it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I copied 4 of these. I split this into 4 sections, so I can talk about 4 different situations. And so I can come over here to the arrow, get select annotation, select it. And what I did, get one more time, was I copy and pasted. Okay, and then I just kept pasting. Okay, so I already have mine, so I'm going to get rid of those. Okay, now what's happening here is we've got parallel lines cut by a transversal. So I'm going to zoom into this picture. So here's my parallel lines here and here. Okay. Let me just emphasize them in a different color. So we have one parallel line here and another one here, okay? And then our transversal, let's say I do our transversal in, let's say black. Okay, that's our transversal. That's the line that is cutting these parallel lines. So I shaded outside of my two parallel lines in blue. These angles here, 1 and 2, and 6 and 5 are considered exterior angles. I shaded in between the two parallel lines in green. I call these ones interior angles. So 8, 3, 7, and 4 are interior. So just so we can understand when I reference some of these. So on this, we have, I color coded these. So angle 1 and angle 7 are congruent. They're in the same spot. They're both to the left of my parallel line, and they're both, of my transversal, and they're both above my parallel line. 8 and 6, they're going to be congruent to each other. Again, they're both to the left of the transversal, and these are below their parallel. Okay. 2 and 4, they're to the right, and both of them are above their parallel line. And then 3 and 5, also to the right, but they're below. So they're in the same spot. 2 is in the same spot in relationship to the transversal and the parallel line. 3 is in the same spot as 5. 1's in the same spot as 7. 8's in the same spot as 6. So I wrote here all of these statements. All of these are true because corresponding angles, that's what we call the ones I just highlighted, are congruent. Now, the next thing I was dealing with was thinking about the following situation, where if we have two lines intersecting, those two angles would be vertical angles, okay? So we have these two orange ones, which would be vertical angles. These two purple ones would be vertical angles. 6 and 4 would be vertical angles. 7 and 5 would be vertical angles. So I said angle 1 is congruent to angle 3. Angle 2 is congruent to angle 8. Angle 4 is congruent to angle 6. And angle 7 is congruent to angle 5 because vertical angles are congruent. Next, we were dealing with, I talked about exterior over here, where outside of my parallel lines is my exterior and in between is my interior. So 1 and 2 and 6 and 5, 1 and 2, 6 and 5, those are exterior. Now you'll notice that 1 and 2 are on opposite sides of transversal. We call that alternate. And they are exterior angles. So alternate exterior angles. And alternate exterior angles are congruent. So 1 is congruent to 5, 2 is congruent to 6. Now in green, I shaded all these ones that are interior. So these ones here, 8 and 4 and 7 and 3 are interior angles. These are alternate, these are on opposite sides of the line, interior angles. So alternate interior angles. So angle 8 is congruent to angle 4, angle 7 is congruent to angle 3. Then we use that information to help us with the following problems. So we're going to use those ideas we just learned on this next page. So they're telling us that angle 1 is 80 degrees. And again, we have parallel lines. Cut by a transversal. Now, if angle 1 is 80 degrees, that means angle 5 is also 80 degrees because these are corresponding angles. Now, if angle 1 is 80 degrees, angle 3 is also 80 degrees because of vertical angles. Now, it's also the same as angle 5 because these are alternate interior angles. Now, if angle 1 is 80, angle 7 is also 80 because of alternate exterior angles, but it's also vertical with 5 and corresponding with 3. So all of those are 80. Now, my other value, we know that these two angles together form a line, and lines are equal to 180 degrees. So I'm going to be doing 180 minus 80, and I'm going to get 100. And so this angle here is 100 degrees. Okay. Now, if that is 100 degrees, then angle 4 is also 100 degrees because it's vertical. Angle 6 is also 100 degrees because these are corresponding, or these ones here, 4 and 6 are alternate interior. Now 6 and 8 are vertical, so 8 has to be 100 degrees. It also has to be 100 degrees because 4 and 8 are corresponding. And 2 and 8 are alternate exterior angles. So you'll notice that we only got two angle values for all of these angles in parallel lines cut by a transversal. So now we're going to find the missing angle, and then we're going to state how we know so. So 110 and this one here, this is also going to be 110 because of alternate, I'm going to abbreviate, interior, sorry, not interior, these are exterior. They're on the outside. Exterior angles are congruent. On 12, 84, and this is also 84. And these are alternate interior angles are congruent. So alternate interior angles are congruent. 13. Now, if that's 100, this has to be 100. And if that's 100 together, these need to add to 180. So this is going to have to be 180 degrees. 80 degrees. Okay. Another way to think about this, these are interior angles, 100 and the one I'm looking for. And they're on the same side, they're not alternate interior angles. So you have something called same side interior angles. And they're not congruent, they are supplementary. They add to 180. Okay, on 14, this is going to be 111. Again, alternate interior angles are congruent. On 15, 125 degrees. Again, alternate interior angles are congruent. Number 16, 47 and 47. These are alternate exterior angles. On 17, both of these are going to be 53 degrees. The reason is corresponding angles. Okay, and corresponding angles are congruent. 18. If this is 113, this is also going to be 113 because of alternate interior angles. And that's the end of this video. We did submit it, so make sure you do submit.